The New York Mets have finally gotten a bat as they have signed designated hitter JD Martinez to a 1-year, $12 million deal. This video, I'm going to give my take on the JD Martinez signing and the kind of impact that he can have for the New York Mets. I'm also going to discuss the effect it's going to have on Mark Vientos and the plans that it looks like the Mets had, which have now changed. If you enjoyed this video, going over the latest news from the New York Mets, make sure to hit the like button at the ballpark. Slide into the comment section. What are your thoughts on the JD Martinez acquisition? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you think is going to happen to Mark Vientos and what his future is like with the organization? And if you're new to the channel or you want to make my day, you can subscribe. It is always greatly appreciated. And if you're subscribed already, you know the drill. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a stranger. I appreciate all the support I've gotten from you guys. So let's get right to it. If you've been watching me all off season, you know that JD Martinez is a guy that I definitely have wanted on the New York Mets. I even made a video about it during the off season when it looked like the Mets first had interest in potentially signing him. And it wasn't that I just wanted JD Martinez. It was more so that I just wanted the Mets to get a DH because ever since its inception into the National League in 2020, the Mets have not had production from that position. I mean, we've seen a lot of different guys from within. We saw Dominic Smith. We saw Robinson Cano. We saw J.D. Davis. And then the Mets tried to not really fully address the position by getting guys like Daniel Vogelback and Darren Ruff. And then we saw Mark Vientos a little bit. And we saw DJ Stewart. Like, we just saw guys who are not proven hitters. But a guy like JD Martinez is a perennial all-star and year in, year out has been an excellent hitter. So I absolutely love that the Mets have finally addressed the position. Now, yes, it is a short-term fit, but at least they are showing that they do intend on competing this season, because with the way they had approached this offseason, there were some Met fans who were questioning, like, are the Mets actually going for it, or are they kind of just, barely going for it by adding pitchers and things like that? But I think that with the amount of pitchers that the Mets have added, both in the rotation and in the bullpen, plus adding JD Martinez, they do intend on being competitive this season. And I just find that, getting someone like JD Martinez just totally changes the outlook of the offseason for me, because that was my one critique, was just that they didn't get a bat. I felt that this team was very top-heavy offensively. And you know what? The numbers prove it. I mean, just look at the guys that are in the lineup. You know that Brandon Nimmo is going to be productive. Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso. I imagine that Francisco Alvarez is going to have another good home run year this year, but everybody else is a question mark in that lineup. I don't have high expectations for Harrison Bader offensively, especially given the way he's performed these past couple of seasons. Brett Baty, we're yet to fully see it on the major league level. Yes, he's had a nice week in spring training hitting home runs, but it actually matters when you do it in the regular season. Jeff McNeil struggled this past season. It's not the first time we've seen McNeil have a bad year, and this is coming from the person who is literally on Twitter. My name is Squirrel Fan after my actual name, but still, like, I'm a big Jeff McNeil fan. He's my favorite player on the team, and I could be objective and say, okay, this is another bad year for McNeil. I mean, we've seen him have multiple bad years. Yes, he sandwiches it with good years, so I mean, technically by his trends, he's supposed to have a good year this year if he's good year, bad year. So we'll see how that goes. But someone like Starling Marte, who has been hurt and just wasn't all that great this past season, there were a lot of question marks. So adding a guy like JD Martinez just gives you another solid power bat to put in the middle of this line. And the other biggest reason why I wanted the Mets to address the position is because I felt that they needed more power protection for Pete Alonso. Proven power protection. And that's where JD Martinez has been his entire career. Far too many times, Pete Alonso is seeing pitches that are not in the strike zone, and if pitchers put him on base, far too many times the guys batting after him are not getting the job done. If McNeil is struggling, he wasn't getting it done. And like all those other names I listed, guys like Vogelback and Darren Ruff, they were batting directly after Pete Alonso. And despite that, he's still been putting together tremendous seasons. So I'm very intrigued to see what does Pete Alonso do now, what his numbers are going to be while having a proven power bat behind him. So I'm very excited to see that. And obviously, the whole contract year, so you're going to get good numbers regardless. So if Pete Alonso all of a sudden has a monster year this year, that's going to make his free agency very interesting as far as how the Mets approach it. And are they going to give him the contract that he has earned as a member of the Mets? Not only what he's done on the field, but off the field. The kind of personality, as far as being a guy that's out there for the 162. The only games Pete Alonso misses are the ones where teams injure him, hitting him with pitches. And when they say, oh, he's going to be out a month, he comes back in 2 weeks. Now, he might not be effective. He's playing hurt, but still, that's the kind of guy he is. He wants to be on the field, so you never doubt his work ethic or anything like that. He's a guy that really cares about the team. So that's something that shouldn't go unnoticed, because you don't see that from every player, especially among all of the major sport. And also, the fact that Pete Alonso has done it in New York is something that can never be taken for granted, because how many players have we seen come to the Mets that were good hitters, and then all of a sudden they come here and they're not so good? Now, you could have that same question with JD Martinez, because he never has played in New York. But one of the things I'm encouraged by is that he did play for the Boston Red Sox, and he played for them when they won the World Series. And being in the World Series is as much pressure as possible, and he performed really well there. So he's been able to perform under pressure before, so I don't see a reason why he would not be able to do it this season. Now, one of the other interesting things about this JD Martinez signing is just the way that they have structured this contract. So while all in all it is $12 million, he is only getting paid $4.5 million this year. I say only, but by baseball standards, it's only. To me and you watching, like, wow, that's a lot of money. I'd love to get that this year. But by Major League Baseball standards, that's not a big number per year. But the way they're going to be able to get to that $12 million is to defer it $1.5 million through the years 2034 to 2038. That's going to really help lower the Mets' current luxury tax number, because they don't want to be all the way in that top threshold. They are trying to not, because what happens is that any player that you sign, you're paying technically way more than what you signed them for, because of that luxury tax bill that the Mets have, due to them still paying portions of Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander's contract. They're able to upgrade the lineup, but not really hurt their long-term financial plan by having a guy that they're going to be paying, a ton of money year after year. And I think you have to give a lot of credit to David Stearns and the way the Mets approached this and getting JD Martinez for this kind of contract. JD Martinez was looking for a multi-year deal. He was looking for at least a 2-year deal. And for the Mets to get him to a 1-year deal, that's definitely a win. And then when it comes to the AAV, he was definitely looking for more than $12 million. So the fact that the Mets also got him for $12 million is really great. I mean, they really showed that the patience paid off. I mean, JD Martinez and his reps, they got desperate, and they just took a deal that was offered, because all of a sudden you're getting closer. I mean, opening day is next week at this point. Like, we are getting really close, and it's like you gotta sign somewhere, because one of the things that you have to wonder is, how is JD Martinez going to be once the season begins? I mean, he didn't get to have a full spring training like a lot of these other hitters did. So when it comes down to it, it's like, does he need a few weeks to kind of get in the rhythm? And the later he signs, the longer it would take and really get his rhythm and his timing ready to go for the major league season. And then one of the other big things I like about JD Martinez is throughout his career, he has been phenomenal against left-handed pitching. And as we know, that is something the Mets have really struggled with these past few years. So adding another guy who is proven to be very effective against left-handed pitching is going to be a perfect addition to this line. And he obviously should be batting behind Pete Alonso. I don't care that they're both right-handed, but if you mean to tell me that the Mets are just going to bat Jeff McNeil or Brett Beatty after Pete Alonso simply because they're left-handed, I'm going to absolutely lose my mind. Because, again, the whole point is to get power protection behind Pete. I mean, you signed JD Martinez to protect Pete Alonso. Now, if it was up to me, personally, I would have Pete Alonso batting second. I think he is so important to this team. He should be getting more plate appearances. I would bat Francisco Lindor after him in that number 3 hole. And I think that that's where you get a really effective Pete Alonso. He'd have Brandon Nimmo on base all the time in front of him. He would just, I think, do phenomenal there. And the numbers back it up. If you look at when Pete Alonso has batted second throughout his career, he's actually performed really well in that spot. He's performed well in a lot of different spots in the order, but in the number 2 in particular, he's been great. And we see a lot of teams do that where they put their best hitter second. So it is kind of weird to me that the Mets haven't really done that. It's something that I really think they should do. But let's just say that they bat him clean up again. I really think that JD Martinez should be the guy batting directly after him. Because in my opinion, I just don't think that the righty-lefty stuff is all that important. I think the thing that matters the most is just putting your hitters in order that is going to score the most runs for you. And in my opinion, that is having legitimate power protection right after Pete Alonso. It changes the way that pitchers approach their game plan and the way they pitch to Pete Alonso. They're going to approach it very differently, because if they walk Pete Alonso and they have another big power bat behind him, they run the risk of, okay, now instead of giving up 1 run, I might be giving up 2 runs, which still could happen if you pitch to Alonso and you pitch the guy after them, whatever. But then, again, they could walk the guy after him and have to face Brett Beatty or Harrison Bader or Starling Marte, whatever. So regardless, like, it still is very important, because you don't want to walk 2 hitters in a row. You can't pitch around everybody. So just making the lineup deeper is also very important because, like I said, it was very top heavy prior to this Martinez acquisition. And then the last thing to go over is just, Mark Vientos. And you got to feel for the guy with the way the Mets have just approached his entire career, honestly. He's someone I felt has never really gotten a fair chance. He hasn't really gotten the full playing time on the major league level to show what he's capable of. Every time the Mets sign him to the minor leagues, he does phenomenal. He hits a ton of home runs. Then when the Mets call him up, he gets to play a little bit, doesn't get to play. He shows some power. He hits some nice extra base hits, but far too often he's striking out. He's grounding out. And he didn't have a tremendous spring. He did hit some very nice home runs, but still, we saw the strikeouts and things like that. And, the Mets all offseason were saying, no, Mark Vientos is our guy. He's going to be our DH. And now with you signing JD Martinez, that's not the case. I don't even know if Mark Vientos would be on the opening day roster because his defense or versatility and what have you, it's not good. He is not a good defensive player. So he's not someone that is going to really see the field at all because JD Martinez should be making most of the starts. They also both bat right-handed, so you can't even platoon them. So I wonder if the Mets will finally trade Mark Vientos because I felt that, with him not being a great defensive player, the only position he really could play is first base. And in my opinion, P. Alonso should be there for a very long time at the first base position, that there was no future for Mark Vientos. And I felt that, his value was going to continue decreasing, so the Mets should try to trade him to at least get something out of it. But all in all, I am very happy that the New York Mets picked up JD Martinez. So for me to be positive about something, that must show they must be a really good move. Because as you know, I am very critical. And that's because I'm a Mets fan that's suffering. I just really want to see the team win it all, honestly. I mean, that's what it's all about to me. It's about winning championships. So I feel better about this team now. I definitely think you could see them battling out for one of those 2 wild card spots. But this past year was really just an embarrassment, honestly. With the amount of money the Mets spent to not even be close to making the playoffs was just very tough to watch. So I'm looking forward to the season. I like what I've seen so far in spring. The pitchers, they have new pitches and the pitches have been successful. And it's not so much that it's like, oh, well, you're just reacting to spring training numbers. No, I'm reacting to the fact that velocity is up, movement is up, spin rate is up. Like, those are things that transfer to the regular season, and players are just going to pitch better if that's what they're doing compared to what they did last year. And these guys are adding new pitches and they've had success. So I like what I've seen from the pitching standpoint, and that's David Stearns' specialty, identifying pitching talent, getting the most out of them, fixing them, making those tweaks. And they just end up becoming very good pitchers. So I would love to see the same thing happen for the Mets. And now you added a bat in JD Martinez. You have to feel pretty good right now. Again, it wasn't an amazing offseason, but all in all, I think it was solid for what it is. The Mets are really going to have a new approach and just kind of see how this all plays out. A lot of one-year deals, who they're going to keep, who they're not going to bring back the following season. We've seen the young pitchers do really well in spring training. That's been a really pleasant surprise. So there's definitely some good things that are coming for the Mets. So there's a lot to be excited about. So again, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Again, let me know your thoughts on the JD Martinez signing. And until the next one, be safe, be smart, and let's go Mets.